Hi, I'm Yanda Gigava, and today we'll be speaking to Hassan Mahamdallie about his play The Crows Plucked Your Sinews. Hi, Hassan.
Hi.
So, The Crows Plucked Your Sinews, what inspired this title and what is its meaning?
Well, I literally plucked that title from the most famous play in the Somali poetic tradition. The poem is called Kufil, and the poet his name is Saeed Muhammad Abdullah Hassan. As well as being the Somali national poet, he was also a anti-colonial fighter at the beginning of the 20th century against the British occupation of the north of Somalia. So he was a kind of combination of this anti-colonial leader of a dervish army and a great poet. And in one sense, he used to use his poetry to speak both to fellow Somalis and to speak to the colonists as well. So a lot of his poems are conversations either between himself and other clans within the Somali nation, or conversations between him and the British. And this particular poem, Kufil, which is a kind of adulteration of a British officer's name. The name of the British officer is Richard Caulfield. Kufil is a conversation between the Saeed and the British government.
Okay. And culture and identity seem to be central themes in this production. So, could you please speak on the link between culture and identity?
Yeah, I mean, the play is set in kind of two time periods. One is contemporary London, and the main character who narrates the play is a young Somali woman, a working class Somali woman called Suban. She's living in a council, how would you call it, social accommodation in London, looking after her grandmother who has dementia. And she's kind of not lost, but kind of unsure of where she sits within British society and where she sits within Somali society and culture. And what does she know of it even? Because it was an observation of mine that young Somalis in particular, not the older generation of Somalis who may have been educated in Somalia, but the younger generation who are living in, may have been born or been brought up in Britain or South Africa or Scandinavia or America, it's quite difficult unless they're determined to find their way back to some kind of point in the past where they can say, or a continuum where they can say, okay, I see where I belong. I see what's gone before me, therefore I've got a better chance of seeing or planning what's in front of me. So the play tries to reconnect, if you like, young Somalis with that history, with that culture, so that they can make their own choices about their identity. I mean, it's not like they have to revere their history or revere particular figures or even the poetry or culture, but at least be aware of it so they can pick and choose, and then they can hopefully build an identity which they're more certain of, I think. And for a wider audience, I think, who are not Somali, the question of culture and identity, for me, is very clear. It's to say, actually, in the play we say, the character says, Somali people are like jinn. That they exist in this world, but in another dimension. You don't really see them. And that's my view of a host society, whether that's here in South Africa or in London or wherever it might be. The notion of Somalis just having a kind of identity fixed onto them, which is usually a not very pleasant identity, which usually opens the door to xenophobic or racist attacks towards them, all the stereotypes that surround them. So for a wider audience who are not Somali, I wanted to open the door, really open the door and say, look, these people are, they're historic, they're cultured, they're sophisticated, they have this incredible history, they have this incredible poetic tradition and musical tradition. They're incredibly resourceful people, strong people, proud people, and whatever labels you put on them is not at all what they are. So for me, there's the question of the identity which is imposed on Somali communities. And really part of the reason for me writing the play and us getting together to do the play was just to explode all those identities kind of one by one by one by one until at the end of it you go, okay, now I think I understand these people more. Hopefully. Definitely. Inshallah, as we say, that's the case.
Okay. And then what has the reception been like at the National Arts Festival?
We've had a really, really good reception, I think. I mean, every audience is different. Some audiences, you can just see people, because I'm kind of sitting at the back, as a director. Some people are like, okay, wow, didn't know that. Did she really say that? Whatever, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. Other audiences are kind of more vocal. Like last night, we had a young audience of a secondary school, a group of secondary school students, and they were much more vocal. They were going, oh no, at certain points in the play when something terrible happens, or they can see something happening, and laughing and whatever. Because there's although it's a serious thing, there are some laughs in it, I hope. You tell me. So we had a good, and then we have people come up afterwards and saying, I'm glad we saw this because South African society has an issue around the Somali community which are here, which I'm not surprised to hear about. I don't know the details about the context may be different from it is in the UK. The UK has a much more anti-Muslim war on terror kind of thing that's going on around all Muslims, and Somalis are kind of much the target of that. But here I hear about the xenophobic attacks on Somali communities, the scapegoating of Somali communities.
Unemployment.
Yeah, exactly. They're taking our jobs, whatever. And so people come up and talk to us about that as well. And in one sense, I'm glad that they can do that. And I hope in a little way, maybe the play will give those people who are upset or uncomfortable about the way that Somalis are treated in this society or any other society, give them some strength to say, that's not right, or maybe to find out even more about the Somali community, or to advocate on their behalf, or to join with them, or just to resist a stupid joke or a nasty comment that flies around the room, So maybe theatre can do that kind of thing, I hope so. But those are the kind of responses we've been getting.
Okay, all right. And then you've spoken a little bit about this already, but what do you hope that the audience takes from watching The Crows Plucked Your Sinews?
Well, it works on different levels. I mean, when I had two reasons for writing the play and getting together the company and getting Aisha Muhammad, the actor, to tell my story for me, as it were. And one was to, like I say, what we've been talking about, the question of Somali culture, identity, their place in society, what's happened to the people who've been pushed out of Somalia because of the civil war, what's the people that left even. So there's that thing. But then for me, in the Western context, it's about the war on terror. It's this crazy thing, which is just out of control, really, particularly, I think, in Europe and America, where all Muslims are suffering some kind of collective punishment for violent Islamist attacks and whatever it might be. The whole question about what is happening in the Middle East at the moment, Iraq, Syria, then there's Afghanistan, and so on and so forth, and the kind of repercussions, the way that's kind of bouncing back into our societies. That's the way I see it. It's a kind of blowback coming from foreign interventions in that part of the world. The way that is now raining down on Muslims, in particularly in the West, I wanted to say, look, because I want to say, look, we are repeating history here, right? This happened during the anti-colonial period. You're entering, I see, on another bout of colonialism. Do you not understand the consequences of this? Your actions will have consequences. And let us talk about this, because in the UK, increasingly, particularly if you're Muslim, you're not allowed to talk about these things for fear that someone's going to point a finger at you and say you're a terrorist sympathiser. For me, as a theatre person, I see that kind of closing down of our society, and my hope is perhaps theatre can be the one place where we can discuss these issues honestly and fearlessly and seriously and maturely. And for me, I mean, that's always been the role of theatre for me. The company that we've put together called Dervish Productions, our kind of mission is to amplify voices from the edge and tell the stories that either people don't want to be told or too afraid to tell. And I think maybe this one is the too afraid to tell kind of category. Maybe with a bit of the stories that, you know, that people ignore. In other words, the Somali community that we've talked about. So that's the kind of, that's what it's all about, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming in and speaking to us about this very beautiful play.
Thank you very much. And thanks for coming to see it, and thanks for interviewing me.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Of course. That was Hassan Mahamdallie, writer and director of The Crows Plucked Your Sinews. Make sure to check out the remaining shows at Vicky's Gymnasium Theatre, and make sure to check out their website, www.crowsdrama.com.